Our epistle reading is done by Diana Bedwell.
Okay. Good morning. So I'm going to read from 2 Timothy, and it is chapter 4, 6 through 8, and 16 to 18. And I like to read out of my Bible, so the words might not match exactly to the Pew Bibles. And this is in a letter from Paul to Timothy, and Paul is in prison, and he's writing to Timothy. I say this because I won't be around to help you very much longer. My time has almost run out. Very soon I will be on my way to heaven. I have fought long and hard for my Lord, and through it all I have kept true to him. And now the time has come for me to stop fighting and rest. In heaven a crown is waiting for me, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that great day of his return. And not just to me, but to all those whose lives show that they are eagerly looking forward to his coming back again. The first time I was brought before the judge, no one was there to help me. Everyone had run away. I hope that they will not be blamed for it. But the Lord stood with me and gave me the opportunity to boldly preach a whole sermon for all the world to hear. And he saved me from being thrown to the lions. Yes, and the Lord will always deliver me from all evil and will bring me into his heavenly kingdom. To God be the glory forever and ever. Amen. Let us pray. God, by the power of your Spirit, help us hear your word with open heart and trust of a child. Let us be moved by it with the energy and passion for justice of a youth. Let us live it out in our speaking and our actions all of our days. Amen. So Rebecca shared with you that this is Children's Sabbath. And I'll remind you the purpose of Children's Sabbath is to inform congregations about the needs of children and share information with you about what we can do to help and inspire congregations into action. So that's our purpose today. And I've come in front of you for several Children's Sabbaths over the years, talking about children and sharing their needs. One year the focus was on early childhood education, and I talked to you about the importance of early childhood experiences and how they are so important to brain development and have lifelong consequences for how the experiences children have before they reach the age of 5. Last year, I talked to you about how prevalent traumatic experiences are in the lives of our local children and how those traumatic experiences have lifelong consequences. And over the years, I have talked a lot about the poverty in Memphis. And this year's theme is Children of Promise, Closing Opportunity Gaps. And the focus is on education. So I know if you've been around the last few years, you know how I like those facts and statistics. And so when I read this, I thought, oh, how am I going to explain our current situation in education? Because over the past few years, there has been so much change. The districts have changed. They've opened, they've closed, they've opened more. The curriculums have changed, the standards have changed, testing has changed, and everything's been changing so fast that it's very difficult to gather the facts and statistics about how well we're doing. But God provides, and many of you probably saw this headline article last Sunday that says unprepared, that the state of Tennessee considers just 7% of graduating Shelby County students ready for college, and that moving that needle is an uphill battle. And so I think this, in a nutshell, pretty much tells us the state of education in Shelby County. But as bad as only 7 children out of every 100 seems for being college ready, it's actually worse than that, because over 20% of our children don't graduate from high school. So when you do the fancy math, that means that only 5 to 6 children out of every 100 are ready to be successful in college when they graduate from our school system. So even though the theme today is about the opportunity gap, it's really not as much about addressing the gap between the have and the have-nots, because all of our children need extra support, and they need our help in being more academically successful. If only 5 to 6 are graduating with the skills they need to go to college, that means there are not very many children out there that don't need our help. So I know one thing that comes to mind, some of you are already thinking about it, is that, well, not all children are going to go to college. Well, that's true. And back in my day, you could get out of college and not be very strong academically, but you could find living wage jobs where a strong back and a good mind you could make a career and receive living wage jobs and make a living. But the world has changed. And if you don't graduate with strong skills in science, technology, and math, you can't even get into the training programs for these manufacturing jobs now. You can't, the technology is everywhere in every job. You have to be able to be literate. You have to know math. You have to have strong skills. So it's not just important to the kids who are going to college. It's anybody graduating from high school who expects to be able to make a living. So how are we in this situation? You know, how come we're in this situation? Well, there's 2 sides to that coin. One is what happens inside of the schools. The teacher quality, the school environment, the curriculum, the education standards, all of the things that happen inside the schoolhouse. The other side of the coin are the things that happen to children outside the school doors, the things that happen at home and in the community. As far as what happens inside the school, there are a couple of ways that we can help. One is that we can volunteer time and talents to help the schools within the school. And we have several people who are going to come up and give ideas about what kinds of things we might be able to do. And I'm sure we'll have some ideas come to us about how we can be involved in schools. The second way that we can help schools is through advocacy. Now, advocacy is not just writing your legislator and making calls down to the plaza. Advocacy can just be about understanding the issues and helping other people understand the issues. And so I think it's important for us to know that our education standards in Tennessee have been pretty low, and our expectation about what children can and should learn have been low. And so for the past few years, there's been a lot of work to raise those standards. But change is hard, and it's very difficult. And every time a new education reform comes up, there's a lot of backlash. There's a lot of people who fight against it because change is hard. And so now I'm predicting that we're going to be hearing some fighting against some new testing that began last spring. The results will be coming out soon, and we're going to start hearing some people challenging that and asking and trying to fight that change. I think it's important to understand, though, if we're going to raise standards, we have to be willing to accept some short-term consequences. So let me tell you what's going to happen. Just my prediction. When these test scores come out, we're going to find out that our children are doing worse. Their scores are all going to drop. And the reason they're going to drop is we've raised the standards. So if we're going to raise the standards, then our children are going to look worse on those standards. But they're not doing worse. It's just we've raised the bar. And we must raise that bar. I don't know if you've known any college students like this, but I've known college students who they went to high school, they did everything that was asked of them. They made good grades. They got to college and found out that they were totally unprepared. They didn't have the skills to go to college, although they were very successful, they thought, in high school because the bar was too low. So by raising the bar, the scores are going to go down. What else is going to happen? Well, teachers have to be very nervous about these test scores because all of a sudden it's going to look like they're not doing as good of a job because their children's scores have gone down. So there's a lot of emotions behind this. You have parents who are seeing children come with worse scores home. You have teachers who are seeing that their classes are doing worse. These are the short-term consequences that are necessary to being able to raise the bar in education. So, being an advocate for higher education may be just understanding what's at play here so that we can help parents understand that their children aren't doing worse, and teachers, and be supportive of teachers who may be, a little upset that scores are going down, and be supportive of some of these changes that are coming that are trying to improve our education system. Now, shifting gears to what happens outside of the school system. In Memphis, the poverty rate is 40 for children is 43%. This statistic is actually much better. I think last time I talked to you, it was 48%. So we're getting better, but this has a huge impact on quality of life here in Memphis for all of us, not just the 43% of children who are in poverty. But poverty in the reading from Joel was about salvation. And locusts had come through right before the part that Renee read. Locusts had come through. There had been 4 waves of different kinds of locusts. And they ate everything. And every time the people thought that they could recover from that wave of locust and plant and be fruitful again, then another wave would come. And when I looked at the poverty statistic, I thought, really, that is like, living in poverty is a lot like having to face those waves of locusts constantly coming at you. The first challenge hits, the first wave comes, and maybe your utilities are cut off, or it rains for a week, and you can't work and you don't get paid if you can't work. And as soon as you think you've gotten over that, well, then your car breaks down and your child gets suspended for being tardy from school because you can't get them to school on time. Or maybe your child has asthma, which, again, that was in the paper this morning, some information about how prevalent the problem with asthma locally, and misses so much school that you get fired because you have to keep taking off to take care of your child. These are the kind of waves of locusts that come impact children. And when you're dealing with those kind of crises all the time, it's very hard to make education of your children a priority because you're just trying to survive and solve the current crisis in front of you. In Joel, God sent rain to replenish those crops and his promise of food. Well, from my perspective, we are the hands and feet of God, and it's up to us to answer his call to help others. It's up to us to help families navigate these waves of locusts that they face on an ongoing basis. In Timothy, when Paul is facing the end of his life, he's encouraging Timothy to pick up his mantle and continue to fight the good fight. So what can we do? That's what we're here to think about. And my experience and research is that we can do just about anything or everything. Just about any type of intervention I've read about works at raising children's education level. I've read research that shows that when parents get jobs, magically their children's academic success goes up. That when they're provided with hearing or vision screenings, that their academic success goes up. So I don't think we need to sit around and try to find out the perfect thing to do to help all children, that we can just start somewhere, pick something we can do, and work on it. Someone from the school system once told me, she said, you know, if you guys would just fix everything that happens to children outside of our doors, we got this. We can educate the children if you'll just fix what happens to them out in the community. And I believe that's probably true, that we can work in the community, or we can work with the school system to try to help with them, and we all can do something. Now, we have several people in the congregation who've agreed to come and share an idea that they have about how we can help. And so I'm going to turn it over to them, and we're going to start with Carolyn McDougall, and then Vereen will come and share their ideas about how we can get involved and help.
Okay. Our Bible teaches us that we should train up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. I'm a firm believer in that. I think one of the things that's so important in our children's education today is love and security. I think they need love at home. They need love in that classroom when they come in. They need love wherever they go. They must feel secure. There are many of our children today who are being abused. They're being harassed. Many things like that. Many issues that so many of us never dealt with when we were in school. We've got to look at this as a changing world, and the ideas and so forth that we have had in the past may not be just what we need today. The home is so very important. We need parents who support their children, who support education. We need the parents involved in the schools. I mean, I know we have a lot of working parents and all, but we still have got to support our children. We need schools that are turned loose from all these government regulations to where they can teach children. The teachers that I've worked with, I'll see them now, and they'll say, Carolyn, all we do is shuffle paperwork. You know, we don't have time. And, you know, they've got your children about 7 hours a day. So we need to pray for them. Pray for your teachers. Support them. Go to the schools. Find out what's going on. Let your children know that you care. I think that is so important. And then I think the church plays a vital role in it too. If we're going to educate the whole child, then we need to also include their training here at church. All of this to say, I really believe in early childhood education. I've come around 360 degrees on that because of our change in society today. If we don't start with these little ones when they're young and teach them to read, they've got to start. They've got to be in school. Our parents need to read to them, read with them. Reading is just the key to it all. And I firmly believe that, just like most of you know, I taught in secondary my entire time in education. So if a child comes to a secondary school and not being able to read, they become very frustrated. And the more frustrated they become, the more likely they are to drop out of school. Okay, if they drop out of school without an education, without training, where are they going to go? They're going to be out on the streets. And just like Diana mentioned, we're dealing then with the poverty because they cannot get a job. They have no training. The only thing they resort to is just street violence, just like we're fighting here in Memphis. So we have got to place more emphasis, I feel like, on training the child. College education is wonderful, but I don't think all child are college bound. I'm sorry. But I know we want our children to succeed and do the very best, but there's a lot of training out there that they need. Many of the businesses here in the city of Memphis have come up with ideas of skills that are needed by our children, and I hope that they convert those ideas to our educators. Thank you.
Good morning. Every student or child needs support by the community to motivate them to do better in school. There are 7 proven ways to do that. Set proper expectations, help your child set goals, show your child that you think school is very important, support your child's learning style, speak the language of encouragement, reinforce learning at home and in the community, and lastly, encourage your child to be relentless. Thank you.
Lillian, Maria, Byron, and Alex.
Buenos días. Como madre de familia, siento que en estos días que todos tenemos un teléfono inteligente, podemos buscar aplicaciones que nos ayuden con las tareas de los niños y luego reunir padres de familia para que ellos aprendan que un celular puede ser muy útil.
Good morning. These days where everyone has a smartphone, we can look for apps and share to help us with children's homework and then bring parents to teach them how useful it can be to use a cell phone.
Hola, muy buenos días. Mi idea es que busquemos mentores y abrir un grupo de lectura para niños por las tardes o una clase de ESL para padres para poder ayudar a nuestros hijos en sus tareas.
Good morning. My idea is that we are looking for mentors and open a reading group for children in the afternoons or a class of ESL for parents to help our children with our homework.
Thank you. Gracias. Tyler.
Morning. So I just want to start off by saying that I'm a recent graduate, of course, of the Shelby County Schools, formerly Memphis City Schools. And so I have been through all of this before. This is my recent experience. I've also gone through the experience of having all of these standardized tests that are coming through now. And I think if you talk to anybody who's in my age group, who's been my class the past few years, we will tell you, don't worry about those standardized tests. So for all the children in the congregation, I know most of you are still in elementary school, middle school, thereabouts. So what I would say is right now, focus on getting good grades and achieving your goals. And in the future, when you get into higher echelons of education, such as high school and college, you'll have more opportunities to study things that you like, study science, study math, and just all kinds of different subjects that interest you. And by doing that, that'll give you the opportunities to figure out what sort of career goals that you want to orient yourself towards, because in the future, you guys are going to be the ones who are leading the changes that are coming in government and society, and it's important that you guys are educated and know exactly what it is that you want to do in life, because you are going to be the future. So start planning now and enjoy learning. That would be my main input. Thank you.
So I think we have one more person, right? Okay. We are lucky this morning to be joined by the principal of Willow Oaks Elementary, and Angela Nichols, is that right? And I think she has some ideas for us as well.
Good morning. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me this morning, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the Children's Sabbath. We do this at our church as well, and it's always wonderful to see the children lead the service and participate in the service. So I've really enjoyed you all, so you all should give yourselves a round of applause. And also, I do want to say that you all have some wonderful ideas. You have studied your statistics very well. Our superintendent talks a lot about the poverty rate here in Memphis whenever he talks to us as principals and as leaders in the district. So everything she's saying is true. And I do love the way you have involved all of your families to give ideas, and those ideas are great ideas on how you can help support us. I was going to share with you things that you could do to support Willow Oaks, and you all are our adopter. And so some of the ways that I would say you could support us, the first way, I think some of them have mentioned, I think just the one-on-one support of an adult with a child is great. And we are launching a tutoring program, so I will be asking that if you all feel comfortable tutoring, it would be great to have you come into the school and work with one child or a group of kids. And that just means flashcards, reading to them, and just getting to know them. Because sometimes when kids connect with someone, it motivates them to do well, and it makes them want to do better. So just that connection, even though they have a teacher, the teacher has 20 or more kids in the classroom. So to make that one-on-one connection or a small group connection, that motivates them to want to do better. So we are working on a tutoring program, and it's at the right time, just as the gentleman just spoke. After all of our initial testing, we now know we have identified students who need support. Another way is, just as the families mentioned over here about ESL support, we do have a large ESL population at our school, and what you just saw happen here happens daily. Sometimes the parents only talk to our bilingual mentors. Sometimes the students have to translate for them. We have been talking to White Station Church of Christ, and they also are thinking about ESL classes in the afternoon to help parents and help support them with English as well as with homework. So I want to do a big lunch with all of our adopters, because when you have more people, you can get more things done. And they were saying that they're a very small church, but they want to do all these great things. So I think that if we partner together, we could work some classes that would support the ESL families and support them for homework. So that's another idea that I also have in mind. And just as I was sharing with Sharon over here, we will be doing a big, just a little small luncheon for all adopters. And I do have an adopt-a-school committee. This will be the first time that they have been on the committee, so I would guide them through the committee and just kind of working out what are some great ideas. We could just pick a few things that we could start and do those few things well, like tutoring, ESL support, and then just support for teachers. I did a survey, which was very brave, from the teachers because it's my first year with them. And one of the things they told me is they just want to feel appreciated as teachers. And so if we could just do some things just to appreciate them. I know at the beginning of the year, we did a breakfast for them. Your church did a breakfast as well as a luncheon, and they felt so appreciated just by that small token of appreciation. And I think on the last day, I had a community representative to sponsor lunch. So just anything that says thank you to them, it helps them feel like they are appreciated. And the one thing a lot of people try to remind me is, but Angela, they get a check twice a month. But still, just to hear thanks from the community and thanks from your principal, I think that means a lot to them. So those are three big ideas. Just how can we support the teachers, keep them motivated? How can we help the children by tutoring them during the school day or after school? And how can we get the ESL support we need? Are the biggest three ideas that I'm thinking, but I do want to work with Ms. Sharon and the Adopt-a-School Committee here, as well as the Adopt-a-School Committee at the school, along with our other partners to see what are our biggest dreams, what can we really do, and then narrow it down to things that we can really attain, and we can come back here next year at this time and say we actually did it. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking, but the apps, like she said, smartphones, unfortunately, our kids are tech savvy. I mean, I see them at 1 and 9 months, and they can swipe the telephone. I'm like, wow, but they are tech savvy, so downloading the apps, that's a great way to help with homework, especially when they have the language barrier. They really depend on their child to get the information at school and bring it home and be able to do it. And like she said, things change. We changed the math program. I mean, even the teachers are learning the math program as they're teaching it, because we just said 1 + 1 is 2. Now they're asking, well, how do you know 1 + 1 is 2? So everything is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And change is not always comfortable, but it's not that it's not needed sometimes, because we do want our kids college and career ready, or ready for the workforce, as I say, because some children would take a trade, some kids would just work a job, and then other kids will go on to college. I mean, everybody is different, but we want them prepared for whatever their destination may be when they graduate from Shelby County schools. So again, thank you. I look forward to working with you, and I appreciate you all inviting me on today. And again, you did an outstanding job. I really appreciate being a part of this service.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody who's taken part in this service, and I really appreciate everything that you brought to the service. And I'll just go ahead and announce the closing hymn, which is number 611 in the hymnal, Child of Blessing, Child of Promise.